I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, July 8th meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission of Hinsdale. Thanks everyone for being here. And Tom, you want to do roll?
Yep. Commissioner Bach.
Here.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Hester.
Here.
Commissioner Keene. Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Rooney. Chairman Boroff.
Here.
Perfect.
All righty. So I don't see any public here today, so I'm guessing we have no public comment to lead off with. So let's move right on to the approval of the minutes. Does anybody have any feedback, comments on the minutes as reviewed?
So I do have two comments today. I know we've been trying to be a little bit more efficient with the minutes, but there are a couple sections where it just kind of says discussion followed, and I'd like to maybe add a little bit of color to those discussion comments because I think they are substantive and would like to return to them in future meetings. And one is in the integrated pest management section, some of the commentary around, I guess, landscaping plans generally with our parks and what many other towns are doing to remove turf grass and replace it with natives and other forms of landscaping, I think is a topic that hopefully we can bring up in the future. And on the point about the Robbins Park playground proposal, I would like to add back some of the color about feedback that I've received with the Burns renovation that happened last year and how we need to make sure that, we're doing whatever we can not to go backwards in, I guess, fixture counts, because I've heard a lot with Burns that what we put in is not substantively better than what was there before, and want to make sure we don't have that same sort of feedback from the Robbins experience.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments? Yeah, I didn't see anything either. Okay, so then with the adjustments CJ just mentioned, Tom, do you feel comfortable pulling in some additional
For the
color
future,
around
yeah,
those
for the
particular
future
topics?
minutes, right?
We can add.
Well, we would amend
We can
this
amend
with just a
these,
little bit
yes.
of reference to those
Yes.
those points.
Okay.
Yeah, we can amend them. I will leave these here, but I think the amendment we're going to have to bring back in the next meeting, just so we make sure that it's accurate before we put them on the website.
Okay.
Since
So
there
then
is a little-
should we not approve
Yeah,
this?
let's bring these back to the next meeting, just because there's a little more girth there that we want to put in. We're not talking a typo or whatnot, so let's just make sure we amend it correctly.
Okay. And I don't think we're looking for a lot of minutia around that, but just enough to suggest that these were topics that were discussed and that, maybe warrant future, visiting.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All righty. Thank you.
Well, so we're tabling this?
Correct.
Okay.
So we're not going to do roll call
Okay,
on
so
it.
no
Yeah,
vote to approve.
Correct.
We'll come back and we'll, in essence, have 2 minutes to approve next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so liaison reports?
I don't have a huge report here. Ray Graham didn't have a ton on there. The only thing I do want to share is I've been talking a lot about that Elevate program, which caters to older adults in the community, and that program continues to see growth, which I'm very happy about because it's brand new to Gateway Special Recreation. I know that they're witnessing it's growing even quicker than they anticipated. We did raise the question about staffing because they do have staffing limit levels of participants to staff ratio. So as it continues to grow, they will still be evaluating that. And I think it's great. Hinsdale's helping out with some of the location for this program. And I'm just very happy to see them getting this going. And so I can kind of give a shout out to them for doing a great job on it. That's my brief update on that.
Okay. Mike, have you taken on your role yet?
I have. Last month was my first meeting. It was relatively light. We're just in initial conversations about a future budget and future sponsorship and possibly recruiting other agencies in, but it was a brief meeting.
Okay. And I know I had asked the question last time about your capacity for additional work. Any surprises there?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. All righty, then moving along to other staff reports.
Yeah, a couple things here. First and foremost, I would like to take a moment to introduce our interns. As everyone knows, we do have 2 summer interns usually annually, whether they're in the field of Parks and Rec or they're in the field of another degree. So first and foremost, we do have Faith. She goes to KU. Her field is in marketing. A little bit about Faith. She has been employed with the Village for a couple of years. She's been one of our pool managers out at the pool and a lifeguard. So this year we kind of took her under our wing while she's still helping at the pool times. We're trying to give her some of that marketing experience through helping with our brochures, whether it's social media content. So just give her a little more opportunity to expand in her own professional world. And we're very happy to have Faith come on and kind of take that role since she knows the Village a little bit. And then we got Katie. Katie goes to ISU. Katie reached out to us on her job posting. She is going to school for Parks and Recreation. So we're kind of taking a little different approach with Katie, giving her more of that hands-on programming experience. She's helped a lot with our future brochure coming. She's now starting to work on some of our budgeting aspects. So kind of 2 different avenues we're going, which actually really helps out our small team to kind of spread our wings a little bit. This will be their only meeting they'll be at because they'll be back at school. So we just want to take the opportunity to have them say hi to you guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for your participation and work this summer. Are you both rising seniors? Yes. Okay. All right, terrific.
So, yeah, I don't think we'll have them next year, but we'll still support them in any way, obviously, from a Village standpoint of whether it's resume help or positive reference letters and et cetera.
Yeah, and hopefully the experiences for you have been, sort of what you expected and helpful to your future careers. Good.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Digging into the staff report here, a couple of positive things. First and foremost, I wanted to recognize the whole entire Parks and Rec team. We had 0 accidents once again in 2024. This is staff-related accidents, injuries. That is one heck of an accomplishment for the Parks and Rec department. We are one of the largest departments because we do employ over 100 employees seasonally. So having 2 years in a row of that and being recognized by our insurance company of our achievement has been fantastic. And it's really a kudos to the staff of making sure safety protocols are followed, making sure training is followed, and that we're doing a top-notch job of running operations.
Good. Is public services considered part of Parks and Rec?
Everybody falls under IRMA, so we all fall under the same insurance, and then they will give us recognition based on each department and how they're doing.
I got it. All right, well, very good. We're glad nobody's gotten hurt.
Pierce Park, this was an unplanned project, but a very nice surprise. As you know, every year we're doing little park projects. This project reflected at Pierce. It was completed by the Hinsdale Little League. They did contact the Village and wanted to upgrade the flooring at Pierce Park. We gave them the green light on it, but with the understanding that we wanted our bathrooms to be like for like, so we gave them our company. They put down a nice epoxy flooring, actually even painted the bathrooms. It's really actually turned out very nice, and we really appreciate Hinsdale's Little League contribution continually to the Village through helping support that park.
That's not, and so you're saying that's the same flooring that, say, we put in the pool and some of the other?
Yep,
bathrooms.
identical, and even the same company that's been doing them all. A little update on Brook and Stow tennis courts. The project is underway. It was awarded to J and First Asphalt Company. Stow Park, that project was recognized back in 2024 when the Village received resident feedback that the courts were deteriorating. Similarly, in Brook Park in 2023, we also received resident feedback. So both these projects were put on our planned capital improvement plan. They have received the mill down already. They've received some fence work. These projects do take a lengthy time because now we're battling around heat of weather, and we only can color coat when it's a certain temperature, and our asphalt has to cure for a certain amount of time. We do anticipate late July to have both parks up and open, which I know people are going to be excited to get their pickleball courts back.
Right. Has anybody been upset about them closing
I-
for this long at this time of the year?
No, the only comments that we received is people wanted to make sure no pickleball was going to Stow, which it is not. It's going to be tennis only. And all the pickle players, we spent a significant amount of time out there actually talking with them about the process of the project so they knew what was coming. And we listened to their feedback on a lot of the projects. So they've been very understanding on the delay. I think they're just happy to get fresh, nice new courts that don't have hollow spots and cracks and et cetera.
Did we hear feedback that influenced certain decisions that we made around the resurfacing?
Such as
I don't know. Did the picklers want something different than what was
no,
there
the
before?
biggest feedback is at Brook, there used to be tennis courts that were retrofitted back in the day, and I don't have that date in front of me. And with tennis courts, you have hollow pockets. So when we retrofitted those, the pickle courts also had those hollow pockets, which when the ball would hit, it would cause it to go different directions. So that was the biggest feedback we received from them, is the elimination of those hollow pockets, and ensure that fencing spots were closed up appropriately. So if somebody hit a ball, it wouldn't go into the next court. So those are the main feedback we had going into this, which was incorporated into the original plans when we went out to bid months ago.
So it's actually being done differently than it was the first time around as far as
As
the
far
way the
as, like,
going
courts?
from tennis to pickle or something?
No, the only change is the asphalt is removal of those hollow spots I talked about. Fencing is slightly different, so we don't have necessarily 4-foot fences that self-close. We might just now have the openings, and we also are able to adjust and get more pickleball courts out there by reshifting some of our usage out there. So there will be an additional 2 pickleball courts going out there, but there also will remain tennis courts and a basketball and all that.
So how many pickleball courts will there
1,
be
2,
then?
3,
8?
4. There will be,
Or
doing this off the top of my head, there will be 6, 7, 8.
8?
8 when
Okay,
done, and we have 6 previously.
right.
Oh, so that's great that we've been
Yeah.
able to increase the number of courts without more space.
So
And that's just at Brook?
that's just at Brook. Stow's
Okay.
remaining the same. Those residents did
Okay.
not want
Is,
pickle in that area.
okay. Is J&R a repeat vendor?
Uh,
Do we use them a lot?
So we use Design Perspectives, who bid out the contract, who we do use as a village a lot. And J&R Asphalt was awarded previously the Burns project, and they came in as the lowest bidder on this project too. They did very nice work. They do subcontract the actual tennis lining and the tennis installing and pickleball installing with US Tennis.
They did Burns?
Correct.
I know we did a somewhat different color scheme at Burns because of our partnership
Yeah.
with Hinsdale Central.
Nothing's
All
changing.
of our other courts are following the same.
Correct.
Different color scheme.
Correct. Just going to look brighter because they're not going to be faded. Speaking of Burns, good kind of lead in on my next page, on page 4, that Project Burns courts were completed last year, but one of the things we identified were the bleachers were just sitting on the grass out there. So Public Services actually in-house brought up bleacher stands and built a pad for the bleachers to go on, which is great because now they're not sitting in the mud and there's not weeds growing under them, and it just looks nicer for the park. So kudos to Public Services for getting that done, and I'm sure going into the new tennis season, school's going to really appreciate that. The fall brochure, the staff have been working very hard, as I alluded to, on the fall brochure. It does go live Monday on July 14th. The fall brochure highlights a lot of our seasonal activities, which is breakfast and lunch with Santa, Winter Wonderland, Holiday Express, and more seasonal events such as Fall Fest. So those do sell out quite quickly, the ones that are registration, and we'll make sure we give appropriate social media out as always when we go live with the brochure.
So for some of those bigger events, Holiday Express is a good example where we've always been challenged with kind of a limited supply. Are we approaching those any differently? Like a lottery system or anything?
We're still limited due to metro restrictions on Holiday Express, and it is still only open to Hinsdale residents. We as a team have not necessarily talked about a lottery system, but I know the idea's been on the table there. I do know last year we were able to take a significant amount of people off the wait list. Yes, some people still got put on the wait list, but it's something that we could talk about internally. I mean, I wouldn't be able to bring it back to the commission for further feedback, I guess, at the point since we're going live. So if that's something we want to consider, it's an easy lift to do. I just don't know if we're necessarily there yet, considering we were able to get so many people off the wait list last year.
I mean, personally, I guess, I would look to you guys' recommendation. You know how it works or doesn't work. My only concern would be is it a little bit unfair that somebody might get their catalog before somebody else and, they can sign up sooner than, the next person?
So
'Cause if-
remember, all of our catalogs are online. No one's getting one beforehand, and everyone's registration starts at the same time. And we do have rules on our registration system which prevents non-residents from getting it. But more importantly, I know Tom doesn't list every single activity enrollment spot. So last year we gave, I'm throwing a number out there, 75 spots, and we really had capability of taking 120. So we do stuff like that, and then if we see a big wait list, that's when we fall back on, we're gonna do a lottery if needed, and we do more internal communication of how we can make this work. We also find a lot of families misenroll people. That's why we do it. So they might think they only have to enroll the mom, and if they have 3 kids and they didn't understand they had to enroll everybody. So we try to give ourselves a lot of wiggle room to handle all those issues out first, and then we launch another series of numbers. So that's how we approached it last year, and it worked out well.
Yeah, okay.
Mike, in terms of the registration system, is there any way to add a review function to it? Like, is there an add-on module? I ask because a lot of these third-party programs, it's just quite a hassle, like texting friends to see, have you done soccer shots or soccer stars, or understand which one's good, which one's not good. Like most online booking things now, there's a review function. And
So on the bottom of all of our receipts, and we've been working on this, actually, it's a bigger village picture about like surveys or like to give feedback. All the departments are looking kind of how to do that. On our end, it's probably the easiest because we can put anything on an email receipt or a printed receipt that could take any participant or registered patron to a survey to give feedback. And I think we are all on board for that. We're just trying to roll it out bigger as a whole village. But yes, the capability is right there. I mean, we can upsell programs. We can, if you sign up for a pool pass, we can upsell. You get an email for swim lessons. We can send out email blasts, text blasts. All that is in our system already.
so I think it's valuable if there's a structured way to going about it, so you can understand, do you need more capacity of soccer versus gymnastics versus something else? But also, even thinking back to college, there was a lot of understanding, is this professor good or not? Is it a lot of, because my daughter's in one of the programs right now that the age group is 2 to 4, which really is like actually quite difficult for them to execute on. Like a 2-year-old playing soccer with a 4-year-old, they're just totally different. And if that was, I would imagine that's something that would show up in a
Yeah, no,
Some
that's
sort
all.
of
That's all
structured
there. I'll bring in the next meeting. I'll follow up with my colleagues of when we're going to roll this out village wide, bigger, to give an update. But on our end, it's a very easy lift, and I think it's great to do. So I made a note here, and we'll come full circle on that.
That would work best in the way that I'm thinking about typical, kind of reviews for programs that kind of stay the same from one period to another, right? So I could look at how many 5-star reviews or how many stars that program got last time before I sign up this time, right? That's what you're
yeah,
talking
exactly.
about, right?
Like it's, how many vendors do you actually, because Soccer Shots probably has
We have a lot
of
and
different.
it's just not us, unfortunately, because we rely on our surrounding communities with programs. So we'll just stick on Soccer Shots since we're talking about them. Say Soccer Shots doesn't want to be used by any other communities, we typically fall on where they want to go. But as far as like Chris, what you're saying, like a 5-star review, like we'd have to expand that a little bigger to like Google, Yelp, or something. And I'm not sure how that platform, but what I'm explaining we can do is from an initial standpoint of surveys where we as staff get instant feedback of however we share that with the public. That's what I'm focusing more towards. So like if an instructor wasn't good, or if the age was not working due to the age span. I mean, that's initial feedback that we can do quickly.
And I guess one other side comment to that, some of the neighboring towns have, in the registration system, you can see how many people are already registered and how many spaces are left.
We
but
can
in
do that
ours-
too. We turned it off because we found out that people were looking at it and it actually is false information and it would not allow them to register because we co-op with so many people. If they only see one person's in it, that doesn't mean the program's not going to run. The program's probably going to run because Clarendon Hills might have 4, Western Springs might have 3.
Because
So
it's
it-
not one consolidated
Correct.
registration system.
Correct. It's a
I see.
shared registration that we communicate with each other internally. But yeah, we were noticing all the towns are getting negative feedback on that, and we kind of went away from some of that sharing. And it's unfortunately all or none. I don't have the capability to say I'm going to share enrollment just in this program, our system. It's system-wide. Events, as you know, summer is busy for events for us. We've already had several events. One of them was Lunch on the Lawn on June 11th. There was over 200 people at the event. Faith and Katie managed that event and did a wonderful job. They don't quite know it yet, but they're going to be managing the other Lunch on the Lawn tomorrow. So they'll be out there. We've also had a movie in the park, Sonic and the Hedgehog, that was held on Friday, June 20th. Katie was on site for that, handing out free popcorn, which has turned into a staple for the village. We make, I don't know how much free popcorn, like 200 bags or something, of free popcorn and handout. Upcoming events, like I said, tomorrow's Miss Jamie's Farm out here at Burlington Park. We have another dive-in movie, Moana 2, coming up at the pool on Friday, July 18th. Third Lunch on the Lawn on August 13th, and then another movie in the park on August 5th, and that will kind of wrap up our summer events. At that point, we'll start losing all of our staff that we have hands-on back to college, and our focus is going to go to those fall and winter events. Park signage has been kind of a focus of ours. Every year we budget for some park signage upgrades, whether it's, last year was Thorgard. A lot of our Thorgard signs were deteriorating. This year we're focusing on the KLM disc golf information. So currently, just to rephrase, this is not a course redesign. This is an update signage, taking existing signage out there and to enhance the user experience and make sure it's accurate information out there. So below is kind of our initial draft of where we're going with it. Once we tweak, we have a few more tweaks to do on it, do on this, then we will handle this in-house, print it at one of our vendors, and then get them published out around the park there, which I'm sure our disc golf users will love since we are one of the heaviest used disc golf areas around.
What's the gist of the changes, from the old to the new, would you say?
So the biggest thing that with it is mostly the graphics and stuff. Obviously, some trees have changed, so moving some of that stuff. We actually don't have the original files for like the T signs for each of the 18 holes. So the biggest part of this redesign was actually redoing all of those as well, or re-signage, so that we have contact information of, hey, if you see something wrong in the park, here's how you can report it.
Accurate yardage.
Accurate yardage, as well as scorecards and stuff like that.
So there is a detailed, for every hole, there will be a detailed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this was just the first big map, and then once we get all fine-tuned in how we like it, they'll break this out and do each individual hole that we'll update as well.
And we do that all in-house ourselves?
So no, the actual graphic part is being handled with the company, but we'll manage the back end of printing and then installing the signs and et cetera. But we do have a company right now that's helping us with this aspect of it.
But are they out, like, measuring all the holes and, rough location of trees and
So
things
yeah,
like
they did all of that through Google Maps, Google Earth, and their systems that they use. This discgolfcourse.com is actually the company we went with. They've do disc golf courses internationally. They've done hundreds, almost thousands. So you can actually go and see every single one. Around here, they did Tinley Park. So they're actually one of the premier companies that actually design these and work with these. So
I don't know how much they charge for it or how recent the sponsorships are, but I know Oak Brook has sponsors for every tee box. And maybe it's some way to offset the cost of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bigger conversation down the road as far as sponsorships, but you're spot on. I mean, that's can be done, and actually let's piggyback that at the end of the packet here, because that kind of goes into our sponsorship section here. Just moving on here real quick, I want to share with you, we do a pool staff of the week program at the pool that highlights outstanding team members that have gone above and beyond. Each staff member receives this year one of those fancy water bottles that you can see below. So we've already had Staff of the Week June 2nd through the 16th, and it's continuing on. We appreciate all the staff that go above and beyond, and it's a nice recognition program that has been implemented. This is our second year of doing it, and we look forward to continuing and changing it every single year a little bit.
Is this purely pool staff, or it could be
Purely
staff
pool,
kind of
it's
in-
purely pool staff. We are the other staff. I always recognize them as being the best. Couple more pool-related items here. Pool memberships. So if you look on the chart below, you will see that the pool memberships have grown. We have now seen a shift off from people buying pool memberships since we're in the middle of the season and switching over to those 10 punch visit passes. I do want to point out a couple things in this report. First and foremost, I did give total numbers for 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2025. I gave end of year totals for 2023 and end of year totals for 2024 compared to current totals for 2025, which you can see the numbers, it is an increase, but we're only about a 532 member increase between the years, with our largest increase, and this surprised me, is actually coming from Hinsdale residents. We have seen a significant amount of Hinsdale residents come to the pool this year and buy pool memberships. Obviously, Clarendon Hills and Western Springs have had large increases too. We anticipate those to drop off significantly next year with Clarendon Hills pool going back open, and not quite sure what's going on in Western Springs pool, but from rumors I've heard, it's changing hands between privately owned and the Park District, and there might be some mechanical issues and pool heating issues. So we've seen some people coming over to our pool for it. So in the end, I think in 2026 it's going to be interested to see those numbers, but I would anticipate us seeing a dip in our numbers going back down.
But are we saying that for Hinsdale, we're at 1445 this year and last year was 553?
Correct. That
Huh.
shocked us too. Hinsdale's seen a significant increase at the pool.
And that's an annual pass and 10,
That's just the annual
10
though.
ticket, whatever. That's
That is just our passes. The 10 passes are actually separate, and they're outlined below on the very bottom.
Well, my guess is that at least some of that increase are Hinsdale residents who went to the Clarendon Hills pool.
And I also think part of the increase is we did an auditing system. An audit on our system. In the past, we just said a family membership, and you could have 10 kids or 10 people in your household that fell under that. This year, we did a family of 4, and you had to buy an additional person for every single additional member that came on. So I think that also contributed to it. But Chris, I think yours is also part of the problem, or reason, I should say. It's not a problem, but reason for the increase.
So some of those Hinsdale residents may go back to Clarendon
Yeah,
Hills.
2026 is going to be very interesting. I think that's going to really give me my full picture of
Right.
where we're going with the pool and et cetera.
Was there any, so in other words, the pool membership covers a family of 4. But anyone above 4, then they have to pay an extra?
There's an additional fee.
So was there any talk about, the family of 5, like, oh, what?
I had, out of the 3,453 members, I think I talked to 2 families
Okay.
that called in. Tom might have had a couple, but after we explained it to them, we looked into it more. It turned out to be a relative that lived in North Carolina that came here, or somebody that's not even living in their household anymore.
But I mean, for the family, for people that have 5 in their family, which there
No.
are a lot, I mean, that
We-
they just have to pay an extra, what is it, like $25 or something?
50.
It's like $70, $70.
Okay.
Depending on if you're a resident or
Of
non-resident.
course. Okay, well, you know.
But yeah, more to come. We're going to keep looking at this data, and we'll really dive into this, no pun intended, when we get to the end of the season report.
Oh, I just have one question about what you know about the Clarendon Hills Pool. It doesn't look like they've started doing anything there. Do you know anything? Are they on schedule? Are they?
I haven't heard any updates, but I will tell you, going through a pool project is a 15 to 18 month process. So they might be in the process of, they bid it out already and scoped out, and they might be waiting 9 months to get even state permits. But I've not heard where they are in the process this year. I know they're pretty tied up with summer camps and everything, but we do talk with Clarendon Hills quite often. So at some point we'll reach out to them and
Yeah,
see.
I wonder if there's a potential that they might also need, if it will be ready next year, their pool. I
May-
guess they can, they can work through the winter and all that. but-
Yeah, we'll do some research and
Yeah.
include it in our next staff report.
I'm still trying to understand the numbers because, like, if you just look at the Hinsdale line, you got the breakdown by town, and you got the 1445 for 2025, and 553 for 2024. But then if you go across, your year-end total for 2024 is 1444. What? So
The
How-
numbers that you're seeing in that chart on the left is only from when we started selling passes through June 27th.
So the first 3 columns are all year-to-date numbers.
Year-to-date numbers,
comparable
correct.
Year-to-date.
okay.
And then the
Correct.
other 2 columns are
Correct. So
year-end finishing numbers. So we would expect
to see that
our
go higher.
1445 to continue to grow before the end of the year.
Possibly, I wouldn't say significantly, but if somebody wants to buy a membership in June 6th and have only 6
But
weeks in the season.
why would there be
July 6th.
so much growth in prior years between their 630 number and their year-end number?
You mean 553 and
Yeah,
1444.
yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I'm
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to understand what the,
The
what
only
the
thing-
year-end total chart, how that relates to the breakdown by town chart.
Yeah, the only
'Cause
thing I
it's,
could.
it's a big difference.
The only thing I can think of, and we can get back and look at the 2023 mark number in total there, is I do know in 2024 and 23, we did flash sales. So we did half off passes. And I wonder if that added to it. I know we're not doing that this year. So I can go back and look at my previous pool data and see if that's brought it on and then kind of come full circle and regroup.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So to your point, I guess it's yet to be determined what is the better comparator there.
Yeah.
Is it 1445 versus 1444, in which
Right.
case we're, more or less at parity?
Right.
Or do we expect a lot of growth still
Yeah.
to occur between now and the end
Yeah,
of the
yeah, I
year?
understand completely what you're saying. So yeah,
Right.
the next meeting will bring back even a little further research and see if we're growing or not growing and go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and another month from now, we'll know how much our number has changed.
Correct.
From this
Correct.
number.
And actually, our next meeting is not till September, so I'll break it down like by every couple weeks in our next meeting, so we can actually look at those few months of how they pan out. Let me make a note of that. Keeping on the pool theme here, pool concessions have received positive feedback. It's the same concession vendor as Clarendon Hills used. In previous years, we've not had long lines, in my opinion. I've received no negative feedback. They've been a great addition to the pool. They're very busy, and yeah, I look forward to honestly, hopefully working with them again in the future. So every year we're not going through the same thing we go through every single year.
Are they selling outside of the pool as well to passersby?
No, they're just focusing on in the pool sales. Update on KOM. In May, we had 8 events, and in June, we had 9 events. Giving a little data here, I had Corey pull some data. In May and June, she received approximately 110 rental leads. conducted 25 tours, and secured 13 new reservations for 2025 and 2026. In 2026, while it's still early to know where we're going, but we already have 15 events booked for that year. I'm sure we have more. So as we get towards the end of the season now with KLM, we're going to start seeing a lot of those holiday rentals come, and we'll start bringing some of that data forward. And then obviously at the end of the year, we're going to dig into that lead sheet and crunch that a little more for our year-end staff reports that we did last year, adding a little more detail to it. I did include some Google reviews that we received. We're always looking online for positive reviews. I always love seeing that information. Other than that, that is kind of our staff report. We do have one more section, which is part C, which I think piggybacks, it's on the next page, into the staff report, which is the pool revenues year to date.
Do you want to discuss the 4th of July parade while it's fresh, or?
I'll give a brief update on it. I was just telling Chris beforehand, first and foremost, thank you for anyone and everyone that helped, staff, Chris, park staff, everybody. We as a team, the village, have not had our full debrief yet. Administrative staff have taken time off now from working over the holiday season. So we are scheduling that meeting for a full debrief with all the staff so we can get our comments all together. I know Chris was going to share some comments with me to them and bring to that meeting, but overall, on a high level, the parade was a huge success. We've had several food vendors give us positive remarks saying how well organized we were, and they do a lot of these events a year. We've had several residents and elected officials in other towns give us praise of how well it was organized. Of course, every year we have some struggles with slow walking groups that we try to speed up and do our absolute best. But overall, I was happy with it. We did have one act that didn't show up, which was the Jesse White Tumblers. They double booked themselves, unfortunately, and gave the village an apology, and they will come back next year, hopefully at a reduced rate. But overall, it was a great day. The weather held out. It's like we had a bubble over us. The rain held out. But we can give a more detailed full recap as soon as I hear back from public services and police and fire, and I want to hear everyone's perspective on it. But if you guys have any immediate comments, please let me know.
Watching the parade?
Yeah, I was
Is there?
there. No, it definitely felt more robust than last year, I guess.
Higher energy.
Yeah, no, it was a good. I mean, the Blues Brothers, I think, were problematic. The guy was looking at his phone trying to figure out what he was supposed to say, but generally, I thought the acts were pretty good.
Yeah, no, we'll give definitely a full recap. Appreciate that, and honestly, I can't take any of the credit for the acts. That is all Tom. Tom planned and booked every single act in that parade, and it started early in the year, and actually he's already started for 2026 securing acts. So that is all him, and he does a wonderful job taking it over. Him and I handle the operation end of it more so.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, I noticed in some spots along the route, there were barriers, like the metal barriers. How was that decided? Were those problem areas in the past, or?
No, nothing's been a problem area, but as our event's getting bigger and bigger and more popular, the kids are more anxious to run out there and get candy. And this is our way of trying to separate that so we can get a fire truck through or get cars through and reduce, the unlikelihood that anything could happen. So we did get an additional barriers, and I do know going in the future, we're gonna even look to expand that a little more, but that's all will come out of the recap meeting for sure. But it worked out great from a staffing standpoint because we didn't have to sit at so many intersections pushing
Right.
the crowd, not pushing them back, but asking them politely to, can you please back up so we can get this 60-foot fire truck around the corner?
Right. Or even just on the street, like there were some areas on Garfield that had the barrier, but not, it was like, why is it here and not there? Or just probably because you didn't have a lot of barriers and you just had to make a decision about
Exactly.
where
We
best to
had,
put them.
in the past, we only had X amount. This year, we got an additional 64 of them. But there are a lot of events going on in the area, so that's one thing that we're focusing on, how we're going to increase that going forward and what that's going to look like.
And are those decisions that we make, or you
It's- it co-
make as the
it's
parade
a-
organizer,
it's a
or is that
s-
coming from the police
Police,
department?
anything safety driven is coming from the police when it comes to that event, and we just help support.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bigger village focus on safety, so I thought that was probably influencing some of those changes.
We got the lineup and the X, so anything you got on that end, let me know.
I will say Abraham Lincoln was, I don't know how well he did in the parade, but before the parade, everybody was like stopping him and taking selfies, and he was stopping at parties along the way to make appearances, so he was a big hit in my book.
All right, so more to come on the parade for sure. Finalizing here on the staff reports, so just like we did last year, we start as we get later in the season, start showing some of our revenue impacts for the season. So outline is a memo from our chief financial officer and myself, which outlines where we stand at the pool financially compared to all the way going back to 2000, and I do believe it is 19. As you can see, we are doing very well currently. Or as of when this report came out, we're 106% of our budget collected. A couple areas I want to highlight and point out is our daily fees will go up. Right now in this report, it only shows 32,000 and change. That number will significantly go up. Also, our 10 visit passes, we're nearly at budget, and that number should go up. Our pool concessions, we don't receive that revenue till later in the year. They give us a contractual agreement amount. And then the missed pool revenue, right now it says 57,000 and we budgeted 74. That also will go up. That represents all the day camps that I still have to pay and represents all the swim, not Hinsdale Swim Club, but all the other swim clubs that come in at nighttime and rent our pool. And they also pay at the end of the season after we figure out what was canceled for weather related issues and whatnot. But all in all, our biggest push of revenue is really came from the memberships, which is not a surprise seeing the trend, and we will give you an updated one of these reports for sure in the next meeting that'll be even more detailed, because I know Carrie's digging now into this even further.
And really, we should probably be comparing against last year, and we're still showing a little short of last year, but based on the numbers that you're mentioning that haven't been accounted for, we are in essence at or above last year.
Yeah, the pool's been very well received this year, and I do look forward to seeing a very positive outcome once we get through this. And then as we get later into this, we'll start bringing some of the expenses and et cetera that start coming in. That is my staff report, or reports, plural.
Okay. Great, so moving along in the agenda to old business, our master plan update.
Yeah, so briefly on our master plan, we have our committee has narrowed it down to 3 possible vendors for the master plan. We are meeting at the end of the month, which is I do believe July 28th and 30th as a committee. The meeting is actually bringing the vendors in to meet with the committee in person, so some more detailed review questions can occur. But I do know in the last meeting, it was suggested to bring an example of what a potential master plan could look like, which we provided you that 278-page printout there. This is not what ours will look like. This is just an example of, I do believe it's Arlington Heights, what theirs looks like. And this came from one of the firms we're looking at. I did not want to include that in your packets. I figured that was just too much for a packet. But I encourage you to please look through it. Just some good information. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this is going. And the committee is working hard. I do know we're communicating well. And I think we're making some good progress. Chris, do you want anything to add on
Yeah,
that?
and I don't think you mentioned this, that we have our sort of final presentations scheduled now at this point in
Correct.
a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I did July 28th and 30th.
Okay, yeah, so the 3 finalist vendors will be coming in to present to the group that includes a couple of the trustees. And then we'll make a final recommendation at that point after, going through the dog and pony show.
So yeah, that's kind of our update, but by any means, we're moving. It's making progress. So I do appreciate everyone's feedback and patience.
And Mike, just sort of the process kind of from here forward is that they'll make presentations, the working group will make a recommendation, and then that's gonna go to the trustees.
Correct. And then
For a final approval on the expenditure.
And then it'll come back to Parks and Rec, where we'll start digging into the survey, which is the first part of a strategic plan to go. So they actually will come out and meet with us at whatever time and meeting we assign, and it may have to be a special meeting. I just don't know those details yet of what that schedule is going to look like until we get a schedule from the firm.
So, and that's where, once we sort of get into the actual work of the master plan, that's where there should be a lot more opportunity for
Correct.
all of the commission to participate in different aspects of that and making sure that it's accomplishing the things that we want and expect it to accomplish.
And just so everybody is aware, all three firms are anywhere between a 9 and a 12-month process once we start this plan. And they've been very upfront on that.
In terms of the turf field consultants report, has any of that work product been circulated yet? Because I know their deadlines are much tighter.
No, that has not been dug into anything of Parks and Rec yet. I do know, like Andre said in the last meeting, the village is working on a financial assessment. We have not even got that information back. They did tell us it could take several months because they have to meet with not only the village, but they have to meet with several of the stakeholders involved. And I think that's what they're doing right now, is starting to reach out to those stakeholders to get where they're at. But I don't really have a further update than that.
Okay, so project is moving along. Okay, new business, Commissioner Park assessments. This is where our next homework assignment comes
Yeah,
from.
so in our last meeting, we discussed park assessments, and CJ and got back to me, and I know Heather, you got back to me. Some of you just said, put me wherever, I'm good. So I did assign these. If you really want to make a change, I'm all ears. I didn't assign all the parks yet because I wanted to focus on our busiest areas going into the budget season. So right now I have all your names listed next to a park, and I just say a season summer. So what I mean that is I'm hoping to get feedback prior to our next meeting in September. I think realistically, if you could get me feedback in 4 weeks' time, that brings me to August.
First week of August.
First week of August. Whether I meet with you one-on-one, whether we have a phone call, or whether you want to shoot me an email, any of your feedback would be taken into consideration as we're going into that budget process. As far as what we're looking to have you look for, anything from minor stuff to possibly large-scale stuff. Now, keep in mind, a lot of this large-scale stuff would come out of the master plan, and I don't know if we're going to throw in our capital plan a huge project until we get the master plan done. But perfect example is I was walking around Pierce Park the other day, and I noticed that several of the benches out there, I don't know if kids jumped on it, I don't know, someone took a baseball bat to it, but they were bent and dented. And it's something that we can repair in-house, so I sent it over and we're gonna get it repaired in-house. But it could be something even like fencing. I do know we've had staff walk around, Burns being one of them, that some of the fencing is coming off of the post, whether it needs to be retied up or even a whole new fence planned for. And that would go into our fencing project or budget going into next year. So just really keep an open mind, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And enjoy the parks. I mean, even if you talk to some of the users out there, I'm fine with that. Any feedback we get is great. And just please get me anything that you may have by that date. And I think we all really appreciate the help. I mean, Todd and I, when we do our best to get out to as many parks in a day, I might have a plan to go see 4 parks in one day, and that plan by 10 o'clock might be somewhere focused else in the village. So this feedback really does help us, especially going into this budget season. And then,
And we had agreed in our discussion last time that we wouldn't provide any sort of template or whatever for
Correct.
gathering information, that it really is just a, sort of walk around in the shoes of the customer, so to speak. And my guess is that photos could be helpful if you see something that needs repair or addressing.
Yeah, photos.
Snap a photo or.
Photos are great. if it is something really detailed, you can send it in an email. Sometimes a phone conversation does get a little more of the content through versus just saying this park bench is broken in northeast corner. So depending on what it is, we might be able to handle it via email. We might be able to handle it in person. Just we're open to any of that.
Yeah, so whatever's most convenient for you. If you want to write it up and attach photos, great. If you want to get together with Mike or schedule a time on the phone, whatever.
And then my plan with all this, obviously, we're going to be starting to work on budgets, whatever would be considered for the budget season, but I also do a summary recap for our next meeting of everyone and what everyone found. And then I will be assigning fall going into our next meeting also, more parks.
Mike, will you follow up with the commissioners who are not here tonight, or would you prefer that I do that?
I can either work, Chris.
Okay.
But, you want,
I don't mind doing it.
if you want to, that, I mean, that,
Yeah.
we appreciate the help. Yeah,
I'll
of
do-
course.
Sure, I'll do it. I'll do it.
Mike, I know you'd mentioned previously that your sort of vandalism repairs budget is one of the largest line items in how you spend dollars. I know there was talk of a lot of fireworks being set off from burns this year. Was there any major damage?
No, I actually have not heard anything. Not saying I'm not going to, as we're still assessing stuff, but we did leave all those lights on at Burns, which is driven out of resident feedback in 2024. They were on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We did put flyers on the immediate houses around Burns, but we didn't go deep into the neighborhood. Did a social media posting on it, but I really think by having those lights on, and we even did the same thing at the pool. We left our underwater lights on because in the past we've had people come and do fireworks in the pool. We didn't have any issues. Prior to 4th of July, there was one minor issue of a firecracker in a garbage can at VEC. But that, compared to years in the past, it was well received, I guess.
Kind of an adjacent question. Glen Ellen had a lot of drama with their pool over the weekend. Is that on your radar at all? How do you think about the situation?
We as a village staff take security of our staff and patrons obviously very high. We did meet with public safety early on Monday morning to discuss how we would handle it internally. Obviously, those discussions include some information that is internally focused and we don't want to share completely publicly, but yes, we did meet with everybody, and it is on the village's radar to ensure the safety of everyone for the village of Hinsdale.
Okay. Do you want to say something about the July 4th article?
Honestly, I just threw it in there because we don't always get recognition in the paper, and it's always nice to see Parks and Rec get some recognition in there. Once again, this goes back to my team and public services and police and fire and everyone for doing a wonderful job. So it's just my way of kind of giving a kudos to everybody and for their help.
Okay, the sponsorship packet, which was a follow-up item from last time as well.
So piggybacking, going back to Commissioner Bach's comment, are there opportunities for future things? So whether it's tea sponsorships or ball field sponsorships or whatever, I wanted to share with you guys, and I'd like to bring this back in the September meeting for a future more in-depth also conversation, but I'd like to share with you guys what we do or are doing right now. So the first packet is kind of the grand packet. It encompasses everything. It's very broad. But the second packet, and it's in orange, is an example of what we do for specific events. So our big packet is posted heavily early in the season on Facebook, in our brochure, on our website. But when it comes to some of the specific events, Fall Fest for an example, we're reaching out to previous sponsors, previous vendors, and sending them the specific content that they have, or specific content for that event if they sponsored with us. It's been very well received. These packets originally just started with one, and once Todd got here, it switched to making all these specific event packets. which is great. I think there's opportunity for suggestions, growth, and improvements, and we do welcome any feedback you may have on it. And then we will take that and incorporate it into some future updates that we can continue working on together as a team. But I think CJ hit the nail right on the head. There's an opportunity maybe in the larger packet of maybe a bigger umbrella that we could look at.
Yeah, so if anybody has other ideas or suggestions for things that could be offered as sponsorships, I think that would be good feedback to provide to.
And I think if you could also give me that feedback prior to the next meeting, because I'd love to build it into the agenda, or at least even possibly update the content in here so we can have a further live discussion on it.
I was curious, and just, kind of as an estimate, of the totality of the sponsorship opportunities that are outlined in this catalog right now, what % would you say we actually sell?
I can give you that exact breakdown for the next meeting. We do have a sponsorship tracker. We just don't have it in front of us right now, but we do keep track for all of our events.
I mean, that would be
dollar amount
good
and-
data to have, good reference point. Just if you had to guess off the top of your head, is it half of all sponsorships, 80%?
I mean, for an example, I think 4th of July, we had $3,000 of sponsors. Well, let's bring you the content and review into it in depth. We just don't have it in front of us right now. That way we could be accurate.
The other question I had was just around sort of how we determine appropriate pricing for the different opportunities listed.
What's in here has not only been set for prior to my tenure here, maybe with some tweaks, but it's kind of what most municipalities and park districts are doing. While we do have some vendors that'll give us $1,000 sponsorship for T-ball hats and shirts, it's really unlikely. So like when we advertise at $100 or $150, we get more people out, for example, like at Fall Fest. They'll give us $100 or $150, and then they're more likely to bring out a booth and do the trick-or-treating for the kids and make the fest more full. So it's got to be appetizing for the business too. And I guess that's kind of the key, is we just keep it appetizing for the business and to get a little revenue to help support these programs.
Yeah. I didn't know if there were, typically advertising or sort of marketing sponsorships are sold based on an exposure.
Well, and that is kind of
Figure,
like in
right?
here. So when you do review it, so exposure, our program guide, you're going to get more exposure. And we have either a quarter page ad or a half page ad or a full page ad, which includes you able to come out to some events, all events. So depending on what you select and the criteria, the fee does grow on it. So we do have a tiered system, but dominantly we focus on a lot of those smaller sponsorships to get people out to our events, because without these vendors coming to our events, they kind of would lose its luster a little bit. They really do help support the event as far as handing out things to the participants and helping donate balloons and et cetera.
Like maybe for the next meeting, could you just share the benchmarks of what the chamber charges for Uniquely Thursday sponsorships and the farmers market sponsorships?
I can ask them for some updates on it, yes. I don't know if they're gonna give it to me, but I can definitely ask for sure. And one thing I want to say on the sponsorships, keep in mind, if one of your ideas or suggestions is a sign sponsorship, we do have ordinances in the village that are in place, so depending on what it is, could require planning commission alterations or approval. That does dictate some of what we can and can't do around parks and et cetera. Chamber. So that is my update on that.
Okay, then last item of new development and park donations update.
Yeah, so staff's still in the process of researching this. Some content is being under review, and we'll have a further update at the next meeting, but I do know it was addressed at one meeting to begin looking into it, and we're starting the process.
This is the cash in lieu.
Yeah. So we're looking at all angles, and we'll have further updates to come.
Okay, cool.
Other than that, that is the Parks and Rec Commission report, unless there's any other questions I can entertain.
Well, kind of a related comment to that one. I did not go to the last planning and zoning meeting, but looking at their minutes, there was a lot of discussion on their front about this request to convert the church on Oak Street to 7 parcels. And on their side, the commissioners seem to have a lot of concern about the lack of park space in that part of town. I know the village itself doesn't have any sort of comprehensive plan for zoning and things like that. Or they have zoning code, but there's no comprehensive plan for future use changes. Is it helpful for us to try and coordinate it all with planning and zoning on the topic, or?
You know, that is something that we would have to involve Bethany in. She handles the Planning and Zoning Commission. From a Parks and Rec standpoint, I'm not as heavily involved on that. And I'm not sure what honestly was said in that. I have not reviewed or even seen any of those minutes. So I'm sorry, Commissioner Bach, I really don't know how to address that question, and that needs to be more directed towards either Bethany or Planning and Zoning.
But I would imagine that when we get some feedback on this topic, so we were, doing kind of a survey of what other comparable towns and villages do. When we've got some data available and some ideas from that would warrant a discussion with several related committees. It's not just a parks issue. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
it's a planning and zoning
We're in the
issue.
research phase right now, and that's it. So there's not really anything to have a discussion on.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, at this
So we're
point.
not there yet, but it
No.
would make sense that we, at some point, maybe there is sort of this multi-dimensional sort of working group to discuss and consider what opportunities or impacts there might be from a change around.
And I think there are some substantive questions of whether, there are some parcels, maybe that aren't even on your parks list, that technically falls under your, whether there are parcels that should no longer be parks and could be sold off and used to invest in poured-in-place rubber for a new playground or something. But, thinking through this broader conversation with, the other residential commission that really thinks about space use, maybe we could have a broader.
I think a lot of this also is going to come out of the Parks and Rec master plan. I mean, all of this is kind of moving in parallel lines right now. There's a lot of moving parts, and that's one of the areas about park usage and demographics and proximity that was looked at too. So some of those answers are going to come out of that too, which then could parallel into other commissions or committees or whatever the data shows.
And I'm with you on that one, and that's one of the elements of the master plan that's, sort of been on my radar is these sort of geospatial analyses of, what's our distribution of tennis courts? I'm making that up. How accessible are tennis courts to all pockets of our Hinsdale geography? And, maybe we're too concentrated in one area and there's not enough facilities in another area. And that at least gives us a databasis for having those kinds of discussions or making those kinds of recommendations to say, hey, look, we're missing some park assets in this part of Hinsdale. We've got too many over here. Let's think about some, kind of rebalancing those assets or, at least recommending something like that. I hope that there's, sort of good information, or I'm expecting that there's good information that comes out of the master planning analysis that could at least inspire some of those kinds of conversation.
Yeah, lots of good things happening in the end. So, and a lot of good information to come. Other than that is the conclusion of our report. Our next meeting is in September. I do know we previously discussed meeting out at KLM, but we had an event come up tonight. Would we like to revisit that and go back to KLM as long as there's no event?
Yeah, I think we should. If we can,
Okay.
if the scheduling works for that, then I think that would be a good time for a KLM field trip and certainly an important park and set of facilities for us to all be familiar with.
Yeah, we'll plan on it as long as we don't get an event, but I'm not going to turn away an event. So, but yeah, I appreciate the flexibility and moving the meeting.
Okay, any other questions, comments, topics that we ought to address? All right, so then, could I have a
Motion to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn? I'm just looking for the word, motion. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
A second?
Second?
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Baker,
Aye.
Commissioner Hester,
Aye.
Chairman Boroff.
Aye. Okay, then we are adjourned.